Hey guys, we got any audio? Um, Apologies about this. I'm really not doing so well. TMB, g'day. I'm going to put a microphone on now, and hopefully that works. What a night! Finished work at 4. Got home at it's like Queensland time nearly. Let's try again. Still the wrong one. If someone could, we can hear you fine. Can you still hear us? Yeah, that's excellent. I'm not sure why I got headphones on because you can't hear me, but it might stop I can't hear you, but daylight saving is applying. I'm just had one of those weeks, to be honest. But I did technology. I broke my Apple Watch and I had to go and get that sorted. So I've done that. And I was late home and all that stuff. Yeah, so it's all go. But I hope everyone had a great day. I basically walked in, my computer had to restart. I'll catch up at some point, John. I might give you a ring tomorrow night. And then, of course, it's updated. So it took 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something to reboot, 20 minutes. And because of that, all my passwords are missing. So then I had to chase up passwords, all that stuff. Anyway, Team B, g'day. Mark Shed Talk, good day. Hello. John Pettit, g'day. Peter Noddle, hello. So that's where we're at. Anyway, onshape. I'm going to add a scene in here. Give another 5 minutes or so, perhaps, before we actually start anything. A few minutes, because I'm going to get a blue screen here. Sorry, guys. Anyway, there we go. Welcome to onshape. There's some new people here. I don't know. I'm just going to click over here and see. Give me a second, guys. I'm just getting this all sorted. What do we got here? I'm doing particularly well with this today. That will be peacocks. What's in the background? Peacocks, yes. Probably you can hear the peacocks. If anyone wants to come and pick up a peacock and take it back with them, I will help load it. If you say you're coming, I might even catch it for you. Which means you'll probably be nursing a very sick peacock. But anyway, if you wanted a pet, it's there. Anyway, today's project, I was thinking about this a bit. I'm going to put that over there. Woodwork plane, low angle block plane. This is probably a fairly simple thing to CAD up. It's got a piece on top, which is, I think you call this the, don't know what you call that. And it's got a blade and it's full of sawdust. It's got a base with an adjuster in it, which moves up and down, and a sideways adjuster. Goes over the top. Fairly easy thing. It might take a couple of weeks to actually CAD this up, but we'll have a look. I'm not a big peacock fan, but it's in the top of the tree. I don't think I sleep high enough for it to sleep with something. I think you need to sleep sort of at the top of the highest thing, and then the peacock might be down. But anyway, I'm not climbing up the tree to sleep with a peacock. So looking at this, it's fairly straightforward, I think. There's a few ways you could make it. Right, it's curved on each end, looking at the bottom of it, and it's flat, so it's a square. These sides are parallel. So what we've got to factor in is this shape here and this shape here, which makes a little bit of a challenge out of it. So there's two ways we could do this. We could make a box and cut all the bits off we don't need. Three ways. We could sketch this shape out here. We could sketch this shape out here and extrude it, right? No, wrong way around. Extrude it across here and then cut these out to fit. That might work. We could make this bottom piece and then we could fit two pieces this shape on top of it, and that would certainly work. It's fairly simple inside, so it's got a ridge that goes across here and another ridge at the back with a screw adjuster, and then it's got a piece around the front here with another screw, and it's got some writing along the front. It's got a throat all the way through it. So these sides here are parallel, except this one, they've got an indent for your thumb, but this is parallel on each side. So how do you do it? I think you fabricate it up. So you start with this shape here, right? And we extrude that out to full thickness. So that's probably the best way to do that, is to extrude that right across the full width. Can I switch the camera to full screen? That's a bit hard to see. Thank you for that. Thanks, TMB. Let's do that. I can make this work this way. I'm not sure I can get back where we were. So we can extrude this across, right? This has got an adjustable mouth in there, an adjustable throat, this piece in the front. And then if we draw out this profile through here, we can remove that from the inside. And then at the end, we might have to put these radiuses back on. So if we extrude this side out, this is going to be flat across here. So some interesting challenges in this, but let's see what we can do. So I'm going to go back to onshape. Give me a heads up, like absolutely. Remind me if I don't switch backwards and forwards. But it's as easy as that. Look at that, we did it. So we log into onshape, we get in, it looks something like this. These are all the projects we've been working on. Last week they're all printed, ready to. It feels portable. We've done some jobs there. Mark's rod guides, we've been doing them. These are all jobs that go to the foundry. There's a donation box, we've been doing a bit with that. And Williams Lane engine, some steamroller steering gear, and the little Foden truck, all that sort of stuff. But if we create, and it comes down here, it says a document. Let's make a new document, and we'll call that low angle block plane. And when we make a typo, because our keyboard doesn't work properly, we'll go back and change that, right? We can put labels on here if you want people to find it. And create a public document. So it's the peacock again. I know you want the peacock, John. It'd be good in your backyard. Your zoo needs a peacock, and I'd swap the peacock for a box of bees. How's that? Pretty fair deal. Anyway, what we've got when we start, and we're going to start on the beginning on this one rather than jumping in at the deep end. Thanks, Peter. We've got planes. So we've got front plane, right plane, and a top plane. So if we draw a box here, looking at the top of it, we really want the top of the object to be the top. If we do the top, it'll be this way around. And then the right hand side, which will be this way around. And then the front will be this way around. So that's how that works. That's our orientation. Well, it's your orientation. I'm not sure if it's the same as mine, but anyway, we'll go with that. I'm sure it absolutely is. I think you're probably just in denial. If we click on this little box here, that'll bring that around so that the front's that way around. Or if we scroll it around and click on that, it brings it around so the top's on there. So we want to put a sketch on the right plane. We'll go this way, right plane. So we click on that, and then the sketch. The first sketch, we click on sketch, create a new sketch, and it asks us which sketch the right plane. We can click it here, or we can click here where it says right. So I'm just going to click on there. Now, where do we start? We want it somewhere centered in the middle, and put this measurement in first, this line on the bottom. got a vernier. Look how organised am I. I actually brought measuring equipment. Not the most ideal measuring equipment, but it'll do. And it's 155 millimeters long. And of course, because less than ideal measuring equipment isn't really in the zone, it's all fallen off the end of the caliper, which is a problem. I'm going to put all that back together at some point. That's a pain. But if we start with our origin point here in the middle on our side, we're going to sketch out. That's this dot here. Now we can turn that off for this orange. Let's pull this aside if it's in the way. But the origin point right at there, and if we click the eye, that disappears. See, it's all gone. It's got a little stroke through it. If we click that again, it comes back. And the same with these planes. If we click this one, it disappears. So, because we want in the middle, we're going to choose midpoint line. We'll draw a line along there. Now, it's 155. So all we've got to do is type in 155. There we go. If this line is in the way, we can move that down there. We're going to get some measurements now. So I reckon probably the best way, we'll go for just a line and we'll press Q, or we'll click this construction tool, and that stays on. That would do stay on. And that's a, so I reckon it's 30 mil hole tall. We'll go up there, we'll type in 30. And we'll put another construction line out here just because. Press escape, it won't put an actual measurement on that. Now I'm just guessing the dimensions here because my caliper fell apart and it's the only one I brought up. So I'm unhappy about that. I've just discovered that the caliper is actually missing the piece off the end. It holds it all together, so that's interesting. Wonder where the two screws went. I'm going to try and work out this radius around here. It's probably next. I reckon it's about a 60 millimeter radius. Interesting. A couple of ways we can do that. What I'm probably going to do is draw another construction line. So we press Q. Pressing Q toggles construction line there. Probably need to update our browser because it's saying there's a system compatibility problem, but that's nothing. We'll just ignore that. I'll close that. If we come down here another 30 mil, like so, and we put a curve of some sort, a center point arc, and we start this center point here, and that order. Now, I reckon that this shape is the same front and back. So we only got to draw half of it and we can mirror the rest of the sketch across. So let's see how this looks. We'll go for a line here and we'll come up. I reckon this comes up here. Probably 6 millimeters. So we'll type that in. And we've got a similar sort of a curve here. Do that a little bit differently. Probably going to go for a 3-point arc here. Or we could do a tangent arc maybe. Tangent arc's probably the answer. We can go back and change all these measurements later. But I reckon it's about there somewhere probably. That's not going to work. And it's half the fun. It's just pressing Control Z if something doesn't work. If you stuff up, press Control Z. I'm going to just press delete and remove that line. We're going to go with a 3-point arc. Go there. And see that's turned orange? That means it's locked onto the part there. I reckon we call that 100mm radius there. Probably not critical, whatever it is. But we can come back here with the scissors tool. We just press M as the shortcut. If you hover over it, it'll tell you the shortcut. And you can't always remember, but the scissors tool, you can click that and that removes that piece that's sticking out. So we're looking somewhere near. If we go for a mirror and select the mirror line, which will be that one, it turns yellow. And mirror this piece, and this piece. What happens is that fills in. It turns grey, which means it's a complete sketch, and you can extrude it or do other things with it. But that's sort of the shape. It's not bad. I reckon it's got a round edge there. It's got a bit of a curve on here and here. And probably we can do that too right now. If we go here to the fillet, sketch fillet, click that one. And that one. What that is it gives you a little arrow which gives you the direction. Marks in 2 minds. And it gives you the radius. Let me stretch that out there so you can actually see it. It says radius 5. I think it needs to be that big. Let's go 4. It changes both of them. So that gives us the shape. And to make that into a block plane, now we've got the sketch. The sketch is right on the center line. So what I'm going to do is extrude it each direction. Keep the center line. Because that makes it easier later on, I think. So from there we can close and finish this sketch. There's one way we can do it. If we've got a sketch with a complete piece in it that's turned grey, all we've got to do is click the extrude button. So if we click that, it'll automatically pick it and extrude it, like so. Now, if we click symmetrical, it extrudes half each side of the sketch. And how wide is it? I reckon it's probably 46 millimeters, something like that. It doesn't look much like a plane yet, but it's getting there. Now, we've got a sketch on this plane, and we've brought it around like this. We've got to get it the right way around. If we click N, which is the normal side, probably got to select that sketch first and then press N. That brings it round to level again, like that. So it's a little shortcut that might be helpful. So the next thing is to cut the middle out, roughly. Now, let's have another look. Hang on, we'll come out here. Here we go. Let's have another look at this. All right. It's got a frog in there, I guess. It's an angle. And it's got, if we take this apart, let's take it apart a bit further. We've got a brass screw. That should be a fairly easy piece to cat up. And we've got this little adjuster piece. That should be pretty easy too. We've got this piece that's stuck. We could give it a tap with a hammer, but this piece comes out of the back here. So it's a separate piece. And it's got a thread in it there and a slotted hole in the body. So the first thing will be the cutout. Now looking at it, this is about, I reckon, 3 mil thick here. And this one at the front is probably 5 millimeters thick here without the cutout. You put the cutout in afterwards. Looking at this shelf here is probably, this one here is probably, what do we got? 12 millimeters thick. And there's a bit of a step there, and the rest's all pretty straightforward. We've got to put the angle in here for the so if I do that, does that work? So this is about 3 millimeter, 2.5 thick in the side here. An adjustable throat, yes. So if we put another sketch over the top of this, and that'd be sketch 2. And we go on the same plane, the right plane. We can click on that, and because it's getting a bit complicated when we've got sketch 1 and 2, we can click on this little pen here beside the green tick, and we can put good idea to label it. It seems like a lot of work, but it makes the job easier. And when this drawing might get a little bit more complicated, so it's good to do that. We've still got this one as sketch 1. If we right click that and rename it, we can rename it right there. So Let's call that outside sketch. So if we click on this and click edit, we can edit that. It comes up with this window again. And looking at it, we want a construction line, so Q is the answer for that one. And we said this is probably 3 millimeters thick, so we're going to put a construction line up here. From the origin point. 3 millimeters. There we go, that gives us a 3 there. And we'll go along here and press escape. So we've got a line there. Now this is a construction line and we don't really want it to be a construction line. So all we've got to do is select that so it's orange, unclick the construction line or press Q. See, press Q again, it stops it. So that gives us our first line. On this one, if we use this use or project convert button, we can press U for that, or we can just click the button. What we can do is select, zoom in, scroll wheel on the mouse, and click that, and that automatically brings that line onto the new sketch. If we put a dimension on that line, what did we say? How thick? We didn't really, but I reckon it's 5.5. Is that what I said before? Probably not. Can't do that because it's a constraint. So if we click that, press delete, and it wants to do that. So we've run Control Z, your friend. This is the one we want to delete. There we go. .5. Let's revise that. 5 mil. So then we can run a line from that mark all the way back through here. Might run it through to the center. Now there's a shelf in there. It's got a bit of angle on it. It's probably 3 degrees, something like that. I reckon that this line needs to be at 36. It's having trouble with that because it wants to put this back parallel with this one and in line with it, all those sort of things. And there. So we're going to have to delete a couple of these to make it work. There we go. They're constraints which make it basically click it into a place. We'll talk about constraints as we go forward with this project. So I reckon that's about there. And there's a line up here. What do we say? 3 degrees probably. Use the dimension, and rather than clicking the line, click the line and it'll put a dimension on there. If we click that line, see, give me a dimension. If I click this line too, it gives me a degree line. So what do we got? 87. Is it more than that? We can double click that anyway and change it. Everything can be changed once it gets sketched up. 86, that looks all right. And trim tool. Good night, John. We can use this one, which is the extend. It's on the same menu. And we select this. We can bring this all the way down here if we want. And put a line up there like that. And I reckon that wants to be a bit thinner than that. So if we put a measurement between this line and this line like that, 36, 30, this one here is 36, and it probably wants to be as 34. Look, moved it back a little bit. Let's go a little bit more. 34.5. That looks all right. Yeah, and of course this has got a nice fillet in the corner, but we're not going to do that till afterwards. And this comes up 12 millimeters, this piece here, we said. So we draw another line across here like this. Press escape so we don't have a measurement on it. We're getting away. And we dimension between this line and this line. We're close, but no cigar. So we'll go type in 12. There we go. And then all we need to do is use the M key. That's right, isn't it? For trim. Or we can click the trim. And trim both sides of that. Trim that one. Trim that one. Trim that one between. And we've got that shape. So that's a pretty good start with that. We want to cut this out here. Now this line here comes all the way through. Well, it comes a fair way through. See that? If we put it on an angle, we get a solid line. And if it comes around so that this restraint, that's got the little straight line, makes it parallel with the other line, the line turns dotted when it's an extension of the other line. So if we click that there, click it. Don't need to put an actual measurement on it yet. But that's an extension of that line. Can get this thrown out. That's what that looks like. So we've got a gap here. Looking down through there, the gap is about 6 millimeters, something like that. we draw a line between this point here and this point here, then we can put a measurement on here between, we're going to have to use the use button first and use this one. We'll put that line back in there for temporarily, and then we can put a dimension on between this one and this point. That's 4 degrees, that's not helpful. We can always press Control Z, that's easy. What we want is to trim that down there, maybe. And we want a measurement between this point and this point. About 6 mil. So we'll put 6 in here. That should move that back where it needs to be. Good stuff. What it's also done, which doesn't matter at this point, but it's moved that out there as well. So what we could do is delete that line and put this line in first, and then it'd be right, but it doesn't matter at this point. So that's how that looks. Now, looking at the angle on this, I don't know. We could Google that, find out. It's 21 degrees. 110 block plane, so that's easy. If we draw a line up through here at 21 degrees from this point here, out here, just press escape and put a dimension on that the same, click that one, click that one. We weren't far out. It's not a bad guess, but we'll put 21, move it ever so slightly, and we'll get rid of these. So we'll press M for trim, or click the trim button. We'll trim that one, and we'll trim that one. That leaves us with a mark there, and we can delete that. So that's the frog. Looks something like that. I reckon that's 15 mil long. So if we draw another line up here, something like this, right, it's the easiest way, and it's not restrained to anything, which is kind of good. And make another dimension here between this line and this point. We're not a bad guess, so that's probably about right, 15. We can use a scissors tool to trim that up. And that gives us some idea of the profile inside the plane. Now there's another shelf. Or a little line in there. We'll go back to full screen here, see that. In here, there's another shelf in here. See that? It's a little bit complicated because that's bent over at 21 degrees. to match at 90 degrees. This shelf in here, how can I point to that? The shelf here. You can see that it's 21 degrees and it's about what it would be. Probably square on the back and 21 degrees on the front. And it's probably about 8 millimeters tall. So let's have another look at this. There we go. So looking at this, we've got a shelf here somewhere. It's 90 degrees to that and comes back here like this with a straight front. Say it like that, it should be pretty basic. We should be able to pretty well select the point because we know that it's about what? Probably 9 millimeters, something like that, I think. So what we need is a perpendicular line from here down to this point that's 9 millimeters long. And we're not far out there. It's about 10 millimeters there. That seems a bit close. So let's measure it. See, we haven't got any measuring tools. I'm guessing it's about 30 millimeters along to the back of there. Let's put a measurement up here. What have we got here? This line to the front there is 35. So it's a bit closer than that. We'll draw another line up with no constraints out of the way. And see that little constraint there with the square? That tells us that we're at 90 degrees or perpendicular to the tapered line. So that should be 21 degrees in the opposite direction. So let's put that in there and put a measurement here because I reckon that's about 30. We'll trim that first. Like so, and then put a measurement in because that's easier. We can put a measurement between there and there. .28. Let's change that to 30. There we go. And that should be, if we trim this top here, that should be exactly where that needs to be. So it's quite a complicated little shape, but it's starting to come together nicely. If we do a parallel line down like that, is that where it needs to be? I reckon it's got a bit of slope this way as well, so we might just sort of guess that. Put a parallel line down there, press escape, and use the trim function. I'm going to sneeze, and I'm sorry about that, but it happened. If you're wearing headphones, that might have been a bit much. Let's trim this one. Trim this one. Trim this line. Trim this line. So trim this one. From there we can trim that one. And this line there, so we can trim that one. But that's given us our basic shape there. The rest all comes in sort of as an extra step. So now here's the trick, right? If we draw a line around here, we can come up and we can touch this here, and that'll give us a dotted line to tell us that we're in line with it. And we can come up here. That completes that piece. If we cut that out, then we can do this. It doesn't need to be particularly angles, but we can come up here, wrong way around. We can go from there to there. Now, it gives us a yellow line if we're in line with that, and we can come back down here. What that does is turn that centerpiece inside out. We'll have a look at turn it grey. We'll trim this one. We don't need that. And we'll trim this one because we don't need that. And we might toggle part 1, which is the extrusion we've already got. Now this gives us basically a map of the inside of the plane. And to check it, we're going to delete that line. There we go. Now, if we turn this part back on and we click extrude here, this is where the magic starts to happen. We click extrude. Right, and click remove. When we say it was 48mm long, wide, and it's 2mm on each side, let's say 44. If we go 44 there, and we click symmetrical so it goes each side, it's a bit thin there. I'm going to go 40. Let's try 42. How does that look? That looks 43. That looks pretty good. We click the green. There we go. All the shapes. Roughly, if we go back and have a look, there's a few things that need to be streamlined and smoothed out here. But we'll do that in a bit. But there we go. Now, what we've got is no shape on each end, right? And there's pieces to go in the middle. Let's go back here and click that button. So, looking at it, we've got no shapes on this end and no shape on this end. We haven't got the cutout for the adjustable throat, and we haven't got, looking at it, this boss here where the thread goes in. We haven't got this piece in the middle that holds the adjuster. We haven't got this boss here. Right, and we haven't got this piece here on front. So they're the jobs on this part. So we've got a radius here. I guess it's about 100mm radius. We could probably put them on next because they're not going to interfere with anything. And I think that this boss goes part of over the radius. So let's do that first. We have got a problem here. If we look at it, We click on this corner here, it should give us a nice isometric view. There we go. Our problem is that this radius is too deep. So if we go back to this sketch here, which is labelled nicely outside sketch, and edit it, we can change this measurement. Change it to 2 for a start. We can move it back later, but still doesn't quite give us a square number. So I'm going to change that again. Remember, if we press N, it'll bring it round square and normal, but I'm not going to do that. Let's do that. It's just a tiny, tiny radius, and it's changed both ends nicely, but that works. Now, looking at the bottom of it, we've got this shape. We need to put a radius, oh gosh, of this. So let's go back to there. Right, you missed that, but I've changed the radius here on the corners because it was curved around this bottom piece here, and it's going to give us problems. What we need to do is put this piece and this piece in here in the corner. So if we select bottom, and we make another sketch. So a new sketch on the top plane. Actually, we're not going to do it on the top plane. If we close that, we can do it on this surface of the extrusion. And highlight that. And it's almost the same. But part of this, it is the same. So let's put it on the top plane. And that. Now, we use this use for a project button, and we can select this and this and this and this. If we turn this part off, see, that's selected that as part of the sketch, which is from the hasn't quite. We'll select that one, then we turn it off and it will. And that gives us that square. All we need to do is put on this sketch our curves. So, 3-point curve. Here, here, it's nowhere near as much as I thought it was. Let's go 60 millimeters. Try that. We can click back and mirror it past the center line. Entities to be mirrored. And it puts that on there like that. We use the trim line, we can get rid of that. And get rid of that. If we show this part 1 again, it gives us a sketch like that. If we click extrude, give it a minute. Extrude at 3 millimeters, like so. Works on the back anyway. It doesn't work on the front. Just cancel that. And we go back to our sketch, which is still labelled sketch 1. Let's rename that to end curves. It's a fairly simple little modification we need to do here. If we turn off part 1, we've got this. We need to draw a line between there and there. Press escape, and that's given us 2 separate parts of this sketch. Right, then if we extrude that, we only need to select 1/2. Look at this. How high did we say that was? 6mm, is that right? Seven. Five millimeters, we said. Is that right? Looks about right. And we clicked add. That should put that piece as part of this one. So merge scope is part 1. Click that. Now it's closed up our throat here. There's several ways we could fix that. That's this other half. Extrude that 3mm. You could easily, but I'd have to go and find a caliper because mine fell apart. Right. We need to extrude this half next. That's what I thought I was doing, but obviously I wasn't. That's given us our curves on the end. Different. That it's sort of made all that work with the throat a bit null and void. Now the best way to do this is to drag this extrude down past these pieces. Problem solved. Because it puts that procedure in after we've put the curves in. So rather than undo everything, just change the order of operations. Let's fix that. So there we go. Now, looking at this, I'll come back to me. It didn't need to be that long, but we fixed it, haven't we? This piece here on the end, right? It's got a matching curve on here. And it's a square block. So if we put that on the top, then the back piece we can actually cut out later. So let's do that. Select top there, so it's all oriented the right way around. Need to put something in here. So put a new sketch on here. And a construction line, so press Q. We might need to use a use. We'll select that line. And we'll select that line because we want to copy that edge. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Getting ahead of myself. So the smaller curve is parallel to the big one. I'm going to move this so that I can actually see it. There we go. And we need a new sketch also on the top plane. But we're going to use that use button and put that line in and put that line in. So when we get rid of part 1, we've got that line and that line. Now, they're construction lines, of course, and they shouldn't have been because I had that selected when I selected the use button. If I select that and press Q, it changes that to a solid line like we showed you before. There we go. We've got a block there that's probably, what is it, 15 mil wide. So from here, if we go a line down here, how long is it? I reckon 25. And that line goes dotted, and if it's parallel, perpendicular to the other line goes orange. So that works. Let's go 26. It's a good guess. And this is guesswork. Go across here's 15 mil, so we go 7.5. And that should be pretty much. If we mirror that line across the center here, it says select the mirror line. So we select that one and goes yellow. We select this one, that gives us our middle line. Now, because I've selected this line or used this line off the original part or off the other sketch, what we can do here is offset this. Still more. Too far. Instead of messing around like this, you could measure it. That looks about right. Trim that one. That one. That one. Zoom in so that we can actually see that. Press escape to get rid of that. Trim this one. This one, we'll get rid of those 2 points because they're just going to be a pain later. And that gives us that shape. It's got to be 12 mil high. So if we turn part 1 on, that should all nicely overlap. So if we extrude that sketch like that, it needs to be 12 mil tall, we said. There we go. Like that. The job we could probably do now is put some fillets around this, and I reckon it's got about probably a 1 mil fillet all the way around it, which would be nice. If we click this one as the fillet tool, we should be able to fillet that one and that one and that one, and it automatically puts it all the way around. 1 millimeter seems that it's only half a millimeter, so let's go to 1. Click that, and it's put a fillet in there. Nice. So now this adjustable mouth needs to come out of it next. There's a couple of ways we could do that. I reckon the gap here is 3.5 millimeters deep, and it goes right back to this frog here. So if we select a new sketch, also on this plane, because that's the bottom edge, and the use button, we can select this line, we can select this line, we can select this line. We probably don't need to select both of them, but we will. And we can use the extend tool. Extend this tool, this line right up here as far as we can. And this line here. Except we haven't, so we're going to mirror that. Haven't made much about that. Cutouts right to the back here. I think. So we might use this one as well. There we go. If we mirror that on that line there, we can put this one in and this one, and use the trim tool. Delete that one because it's probably irrelevant. If we put it in, it gives us a box like that, and if we extrude that, 3.5 mil, 3.5, I reckon that's about right. And click remove. And enter. That gives us the right cutout for that. So job done. There is a box in the center here. We'll come back to that screen. Anyone who is following along. There's a little box in the center and it's got a slotted hole in the middle. So, and there's a thread in here. So they're the two bits we really need in the front to complete it, and probably the Stanley writing if we wanted to do that. We might do that next week or as we go. Might be a couple of week projects, this one. If we zoom that out, hang on, I'll fix this. Click the blue button. There we go. If we zoom this out and then move our mouse down here and zoom it back in, it moves it up there like that. So it's actually in the middle of the screen, which is great. Now these sketches are getting a little bit complicated, so we're going to rename some of these. We'll call this one frog cutout sketch or mouth cutout sketch. There we go. Sketch one. Let's call this adjuster mount sketch. Front tote for all front tote mount sketch. Don't know if that works or not, but anyway, we'll call it that. Now this sketch here is still showing, so the end curve sketch, if we close that by popping a line through that eye, then we can't see that. If at any time you think, gosh, all these planes are a bit confusing, if you press the peak button, they'll turn off. There you go. Just looking at the back. The B button again, they'll turn on. So underneath it, we're going to put a hole in there. I don't think this is wide enough on the back here. I don't think this is wide enough. It's not, could be. So we go to this sketch and we're going to edit it. Bring this up here. We're going to put a dimension across here. There, that was 7.5. We're going to call that. We're going to call that 9 because I reckon it's 18 mil. So that fixes that. We go back, let's just change that a bit, but that's good. What we haven't done is put a fillet up the corners here. We can do that. Can't do them both at once. It's a feature that got changed because it got too complicated, I think. We used to be able to do that. So we're going to do them all separate, which makes it a little bit complicated, but we're going to do that. Here we go. So now we fix that. We'll go back here. Why are these in red? Could not fillet sections on both some parts. It's done it, but I'm not sure why it has done that. Anyway, we can go back and look at that later. Look at the bottom. We need a cutout in here. So put a sketch on here. And we'll call this one mouth cavity detail sketch. There we go. Don't know if that's the correct name for that, but let's call it that. If we click this little arrow down here, we get a drop down menu with center point rectangle. We're going to use that. I reckon it looks something like this. It's probably 14 millimeters wide that way. And it's probably 16 millimeters long that way. And it's probably got fillets on here. Click all of those. 4mm radius. That looks about right. And we left click that to finalize it. On that same sketch, I think we're going to put the rest as well. So put another box here. There. Like so. And I reckon it's probably, looking at it, it's probably 8mm wide. So we'll put it 8mm. And it's probably 11mm long. It's got the same fillet on it, so we'll do that the same. Rather than just draw around the edges, we do that fillet should give us corners. Delete all the parts. We could do it manually. And that's our two cutouts. This one looks to be, if we extrude it, bearing in mind that this is on this plane, which is right on the bottom surface. If we look at it like this, we're going to remove those parts. And it wants to be, looks to be about 6.5 and 3.5, so 10mm. We'll call it 10mm deep. What we got? That's our hole there. Not going to work though. See that? We've got one important measurement, and that was the center of the square. Easy enough to fix now. If we go back and edit that, we need to put a measurement here between this box here and say this line here. This is 19.3. I don't think it's quite that far. I think it's more like 16. And that moves it all. If we click that, we should have updated that, and that makes everything look pretty good. If we turn this sketch back on, we can then extrude just the center part. And we can put a measurement in, or we can just change this as through all and remove it. There you go. Of course, there's a fillet around that. We can do that easily. If you select more than one in a line, it'll select the whole lot. It's a bigger fillet than that. I reckon it's 2mm. Might be 3. Let's go with 3. So there's that. The last detail is a little hole in here, which this pin, we'll go back to me again. this little piece here, it's got a pin that slides in that hole. So it's not threaded or anything, it's just a hole. And it's about the pin's probably 5mm long, so the hole probably wants to be 6mm deep, and it's about a 3mm pin. We can put this directly on this face, so we make another sketch for the hole in the pin. There we go. Put the sketch plane on this face. And we need a construction line, so we press Q. Press T or normal, or we'll go back to the top plane, or we press normal. It brings us up like this. We need a construction line, just like that. Press escape. And we need to put a measurement in here. Say from there to the center of there. I'm going to go, it's about 12. Type 12 in, press enter. That should put our line in exactly the right spot. There's a couple of ways we could put a hole. We could draw a circle and extrude it. We could finalise that. Sketch one gets a bit complicated. Pinhole. And we can use this feature here, which is hole. Right, sketch points to place holes. There. Start it from the selected plane and start it from the part, this part. Termination's blind. It's come through part 1, which is this part. Its depth is 5mm, we said. Let's call it 6. And it's trying to put a thread in there, but we don't need a thread. We'll come around here. See, it's trying to put a threaded hole in there. Okay, hole type, drilled. Drill size is trying to find this drill size, which is not helpful in Imperial. I'm going to say 3mm. Doesn't like that very much. Why is that? We click metric instead. Try that. Drilled. Drill size 3mm. Select the size off the chart. We can go 3.1. There we go. And that's right through. It's too deep. Let's go 6mm. 118 degrees on the bottom, and that's given us 3.1 millimeters, drill 6 millimeters deep. So that's done that. Anyway, it's getting late, so I'm going to call this. We're going to have another go at it. On this piece, on this piece, what have we got to do left? Right. We've got all the front here finished. We've got the hole in here and we've got the cavity. Right. We've still got to put Stanley around there. We've got to put a boss in under this. There's a round boss that looks like it's about 12 millimeters diameter. The same angle as the blade. We've got to put this piece in here, this feature for the adjuster, and we've got to put this boss on the back. So that's pretty straightforward, and we've got this piece finished. We can put some texture and some colour on it, and we can make it look somewhere pretty. So the bits we've got to finish to do are the adjustable front. It's pretty straightforward. We can make that slide. It's a little brass knob. Make one of them with a thread on it, and a little adjuster. They're all straightforward. There's some interesting jobs in this because it's not exactly like just a straightforward part, but I think we can do that. So from there, there's this piece. Right, it's got some interesting challenges in here. It's got a number around there if we want to put that on it. It's got a keyhole slot, and it's got this beautiful texture in here that is almost impossible to cast from experience, but we can put that in too. And it's got a bit of a cant on here, so it looks on solid. The other part is the blade, which is quite simple. It's flat, it's got an angle on one end, it's got a round piece on the other end, it's got a slotted hole in it. It's also got a worm-shaped rack, or a round-shaped rack cut in the back. So that'll be some fun. We also need, on this, like Peter says, to put the finger dimples in. That's an easy job. That's not difficult at all. We do a nice job of that and put them in. So there's also a screw in here, and there's a lever on here, and there's a little adjustable wheel on the stud which slides this piece backwards and forwards. So it's all doable, and we should be able to make it all animated so that when you turn the knob, it all adjusts, and when you slide this one backwards and forwards, this moves in and out and all that. So it's a few weeks in this, and if anyone's interested, tune in because we'll do some more. But that's how onshape works. It's just some basic stuff, how to make things or how to make things work. There's little details we need to do, like sort out this radius on here, put some more fillets around it, and give it sort of a grey on the outside and a black on the inside, all those sort of things. But we can make something pretty nice. Anyway, I'm going to call it because it is 10 to 10 down here. Thanks heaps, guys, for tuning in. I hope this is sort of a bit interesting. I thought it might be a fun project. It's a bit of a project. But might be fun to do this because it's a bit of a leading that some guys at work were sort of talking about, and it might actually do something about that and get it all sort of, maybe make a low angle block plane or something like that, but it's a long way down the track. It's not that long down the track, but it'll probably happen. Anyway, thanks guys. I'm going to bed. Try and not get eaten alive by mosquitoes. I've had a bit of a day. I'm going to, now my Apple Watch is actually charged up again, I'm going to try and repair it and put on charge over in the kitchen so that I've got it in the morning. So anyway, I'm signing out. Appreciate it and hope everyone found it a little bit interesting. It's a complicated project compared to what we usually do here, or compared to last week anyway, but we're getting there. Break it up into parts, we can do it. So I'm out.